Hi, my name is Ron Hogan, and I'm pleased to provide you with this video tutorial of our new budget software platform being used for the first time for the City of Malden's fiscal year 2022 budget. We're excited to present this platform to you as a way to provide our residents with much more in-depth information about the operations of the City of Malden and what goes into our annual budget. My intent is to give you a brief overview of navigating the software in hopes that it allows residents to be able to utilize this tool to become more informed about the city operations. First, you'll notice that the city's budget is presented through an online platform that allows the resident to be able to view whatever part of the budget that may be of most interest to them. You'll see that this navigation bar, moving from left to right, is intended to provide the resident with additional information as they move throughout the menu items. So, for example, we start with an introduction tab that might be helpful to a resident who isn't all that familiar with Malden or wants to just learn a little bit more about the elected officials, the structure of the city, and the basis of the budget that is contained within the rest of the budget book. A resident can simply pick the section of the budget that's of most interest to them to learn more about that aspect of the budget. You'll see that one of the interesting features of this platform is a glossary that provides definition of terms used throughout the budget, which is a request we've had many times from residents in the past. One thing you'll notice throughout this budget book, which is a fantastic feature, is the ability for the city to be able to attach documents for additional reference in areas where a resident may have more interest. So, for example, if you click on the financial policy section of the overview, you'll see a description about the financial policies manual. If you happen to want to learn more about it, by simply clicking on the attachment, it's going to pull up a document that will provide you with the complete comprehensive PDF of the city's financial policies for somebody that may have an interest in diving into more depth there. Moving over from left to right, as I mentioned, the budget book continues to go into additional detail and get more into specifics of the actual budget. So we went from an introduction to a section that now contains an executive overview. This is the mayor's overview of the overall budget and points out some of the high-level factors that he wants to call out in the budget that's been presented. Additionally, there are tabs for things like some of the short-term factors that are impacting the budget this year and priorities and issues. And these are some things that, as you might expect in a current year budget, would point to things like COVID. In addition, one of the things you'll notice throughout the budget book are sections that are required in order for this budget to qualify for the highest level budget award that's available for municipality. And one example of that is a table that will show a 3-year reconciliation of all personnel of the City of Malden contained within the budget. As you continue to move over from left to right, we provided a tab for those who may just be interested in the numbers and the ability to simply click on the attachment and have an Excel file pulled up with every line item of city revenue and every line item of city detail. I won't do that here because it's going to pull up an Excel file, but for anybody wanting to skip everything else and jump right to the numbers, that's where you'd go. Moving further from left to right, we start with a tab that starts to get into more detail on the city budget from a revenue perspective. And so this tab will provide both textual information that provides information on the current year revenue, some charts to try to display that information in a more user-friendly format than in the past, a table that provides all of that information broken down into different categories, and then another table that will provide a description of every line item and what it is that that type of revenue really represents. And that's another request we've gotten from people in the past. And so you'll be able to tie back each line item of the budget to a description that explains to you where that revenue comes from. From there, the budget again gets to the next level of detail, which is what we call a fund summary, which is a total overview, revenue and expenses of the 4 funds that are covered within this budget book. Well, we'll talk mostly about the general fund here today. This budget book also covers 3 other city funds, the Water Sewer Enterprise Fund, a Community Preservation Fund, and a Cable Access Fund. But I'm going to go through the general fund here today because it gives you an example, once again, of what it is that you'll see for the other 3 funds. And you'll see again a graphical representation of revenues. Some of this is a little bit of a repeat of what was in the prior section, but it's there for somebody who just may want to be looking at this section. Same thing, a graph breakdown. And then a really great breakdown by function of how your tax dollars are being spent, broken down into all the major categories: education, general government, public safety, financial, and all the other categories that you see here, as well as the table breakdown of all of those expenses by department. With each one of these sections, we provide 3 years worth of budget information, the FY20 budget, the FY20 actual expenditures, because that's the last completed fiscal year, the current year budget, which is FY21, and the proposed fiscal year 2022 budget. So you'll see all that detail broken out by both function and then by broken out by type. So breaking it out between operating expenses, personnel expenses, and the major categories there. Finally, as another example of one of the great things this budget software allows us to do, is we're able to attach source documents throughout the budget to show you, the resident, where it is we're getting this information from. And here's a great example of that. This is what is often referred to at the state level as a cherry sheet, and it will show you where it is that we're pulling in some of the line items that are provided for by the state into this budget. And by showing the source document, it's just greater transparency for our residents to be able to tie back without having to take additional steps. So you can navigate for all of the funds through the fund summaries, or you can move your way down to that next level of detail, which is perhaps the most exciting feature of the new platform, which is an overview of each department, the expenditures of the department, the goals, the objectives, and some of the metrics that might be available for that particular department. So let me pull up the assessors department. You can see it first starts by giving you an overview of what that department does, as well as an introduction to the person who leads that department. In this case, Nate Kramer. I'm going to provide a chart that shows you the same 3-year view of the expenditures for that department. And we're going to go through some of the same breakdowns for each department that you saw for the fund as a whole. And so we'll go through each department and provide you with some charts that show that, a table with the same information for the last 3 years. We'll also show you for every department a position schedule that shows you every position within the department that reconciles back to the salary line item in the budget, as well as the grade and step that they're at. And then each department head has taken the time to provide you with accomplishments for the current fiscal year, some key metrics that might help you familiarize yourself a little bit more with the operations of that department, and some goals and objectives for the upcoming fiscal year. And finally, each department head has taken the time to try to provide for you some additional information specific to their department that is helpful in trying to get a real global overview of that particular department. So in the case of the assessor's office, they provided some historical tax rate information, some other great information that shows the trend in Malden for tax rates and assessed values, as well as some sales data. So the idea behind each one of these department pages, and you'll see there's one for every department in the city of Malden, is to provide both budget and contextual information that is contained within the budget for every department within the city of Malden. Moving over to the final 2 tabs, you'll see a capital request tab that provides you with both a 1-year and a multi-year capital request plan. These are requests received from department heads and are provided in the budget so that residents can get a fully transparent view of what's out there for resident requests. If you happen to want to get a little bit more information about one particular request, you can simply click on the request and see what it is that the department had provided to support that request. All of it broken down, not only in words, but in graphs. And then finally, a tab that gives an overview of the city's debt. So once again, you'll be able to decide what view you're looking for. You can simply go and look at a high-level view of the city's debt with a couple of graphical representations. We've also included, for anybody interested, a full debt schedule where you can click and see every piece of debt and every year's payment out until the debt is paid off. Again, I'm not going to click on that because it's going to pull up an Excel file, but you'll also be able to look and review at it by the type of debt that we have, whether it's general fund debt, whether it's school supported debt, or whether it's water and sewer debt. So this overview is intended to try to give you, the resident, an idea of how this tool allows you to be able to pick what it is that's of interest to you and navigate our budget without going from page 1 to page 350, but instead by going to that which interests you the most. One thing worth mentioning is if you see a particular section of the budget that's of interest to you or you think might be of interest to somebody else, by simply sharing a link to the URL for that portion of the budget, you'll be able to share it with somebody through various platforms, social media, email, whatever it is that's of interest to you, and send somebody directly to that portion of the budget that you might think they have interest in. One of the neat features of this software is the ability to be able to create a custom designed PDF with the parts of the budget that are of most interest to you. So by simply clicking on the print button, you can either choose specific sections of that budget, everything we just looked at, or you can simply select all, input your email address, and you'll get a link sent to you with the PDF that's been created. And it's going to look something like this. And this is the entire budget book. It's 362 pages long with an auto-generated table of contents that will provide you with all of the same information that is available online, but in a print-friendly format for those who just prefer to be able to navigate the budget that way. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video and understand a little bit more about the city's new software being used for the FY22 budget. We know that over the course of the next several years, we'll be able to add more and more information that will be helpful to residents and build out this platform to something that's truly first in class. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us and we'll be happy to answer them.